If you are looking for some ideas for curriculum for your 7th grader, welcome. Hi, I'm Mallory, and I have 3 boys ages 5, 10, and 12, and I've been homeschooling for 8 years. And today I just wanted to share with you what I used this year for my 7th grader for his homeschool curriculum as this year comes to a close. So I will start with the subjects that he does at his own level, independently mostly, and then I will go into the subjects that we do more family style together. So first is math, and he's using Teaching Textbooks Math 7. So you can order this curriculum and do the online version where it has like this textbook as an ebook. It has the lectures and also has the questions, the tests, all of that, and it's electronically graded, and it's between $40, $50. It gets a little more expensive as they go up in grade. I think this one may have been closer to like 60 something dollars, but that's for the entire year for one student. So it's really not a bad deal, especially since you don't really have to grade. And I do have a rule: if he scores below an 80% on a chapter, he has to come tell me, and then we go over the problems that he got wrong to see if it was just mistakes or if it's a conceptual issue, so that we can iron that out before he moves on. If you don't have good internet or you just prefer the hard copy of the books, you can order this. So this is like the textbook, and it also has the questions in there as well. And then it comes with the answer booklet and the CDs. And it seems to be working for him. He really likes it. To be honest, I almost quit homeschooling because my son and I were butting heads when it came to math. And so once we discovered Teaching Textbooks, we switched from Matthew C to Teaching Textbooks. So once my kids do Matthew C Primer, Alpha, and Beta, then I switch them over to Math 3. And there's a little bit of overlap between Matthew C Beta and Math 3, but I figure math, I don't want there to be any holes. So that's the way that we do it in our school. I haven't turned back since we switched over to Teaching Textbooks. He really seems to enjoy it and be getting the concepts down. However, I don't think they're accredited for high school. So for high school, we may be looking at something different. But for this year in 8th grade, we will continue to use it. And then he has to read for 30 minutes independently. So he can choose his books. Although this year I was getting some of my book lists from the Classical Conversations Challenge A list, like the Chronicles of Narnia and Number the Stars. We've tried several of those, Amos, Fortune, Free Man. Some of the books he liked, some of them he didn't, but it does give them exposure to other time periods, other cultures, and just other people's lives. And so whatever he chooses, I just make sure that it's good literature or nonfiction. And he does switch between different things because they will be exposed to other vocabulary words, and also their interests are varying. So the more they get exposed to through books, hopefully good books in a good way, and their world can just open up to new possibilities. So after he does his 30 minutes of reading, he also does the Bible study group, community Bible study. So he has to read a passage and answer questions each day, and his book is almost like mine. So it is quite challenging, and that is a little bit of language arts practice as well. For spelling, we were using Spelling Power and basically just going back to word lists and memorizing those word lists, kind of like when I was in public school. They would just give us a spelling list, we would just memorize it. However, it seemed to not be working as well, and his scores were not as high as I wanted them to be. So we went to All About Spelling for him, and some of these words are too easy, but I just picked this level 6 because it has a lot of commonly misspelled words in there. So it'll just have like a little lesson, and then he'll get a list of words, but it uses a rule so that it's conceptual. So it's not just random word lists. They make sense with the concept that they learned. And then the student packet comes with cards, a homophones list, I before ebook, some letter tiles, word banks, progress chart, those sorts of things. I peel apart the cards and I put them in this shared box with my other son. So we review different things like, what are the 4 ways to spell the sound of UL? And then the student has to write LEALELIL. All About Spelling uses the Orton-Gillingham method, which really just breaks down English into understandable rules, and it makes English make a lot more sense. So I love curriculum that uses this method. And there are other companies out there, but I really like All About reading and spelling curriculums. And it's also mastery based. So if my son has a list of spelling words and there's like 2 words on a particular week that he keeps misspelling, then I will just put that in the review box and he will continue to review those words along with the new words until he has mastered those. For grammar, we are using IEW Fix-It Grammar. This is student book 2 and it uses the story of Robin Hood. So the way this works is like this particular week, they didn't have any new concepts, but if there's a new concept, they will go over the new concept with them. And then it shows up here, everything that they're supposed to mark. So it gives them day 1, 2, 3, 4, and they have to correct everything. And if there's homophones like your and the contraction your, they have to choose the right one, or to, TWO, they have to choose the correct one. And then they have to put in punctuation, they have to do capitalization, they have to mark main clauses and ly adverbs and prepositions, and make sure the quotation marks are right. If it's necessary to indent it into a new paragraph because it's a new speaker or it's a new topic, they have to do all of that. And so this just really hones in on that. And if you are a grammar whiz, maybe you don't need this, but grammar is hard. And so I highly recommend getting the teacher's manual as well. There's no way I would get through this curriculum without the teacher's manual. It's tough. Oh, and there's also a vocab word every day. So the word that is bold is their vocab word. And so they have to have a notebook where they put the vocab word for the day. They have to look up the definition, write it in their book. And then once they are done marking up the sentence the correct way, then they are supposed to copy that correct finished sentence into their book. So at the end, they will have a handwritten Robin Hood story at the end of the course. For writing, we use IEW for that as well. And this year, my son is using Structure and Style for Students, Year 1 Level B. It comes with either you can pick a DVD or online streaming forever. So my son just goes onto the website, he clicks on the video and he watches a little video. There's not a video every day, but usually the first 2 days there's a video, and then day 3 and 4 is writing a rough draft and a final draft. So what they will do is they have a source text. So it's a nonfiction factual document. And as they progress in levels, they might have more than one source text that they need to draw from. And then they write in a keyword outline. Then they write a rough draft from that outline. They give it to me or my husband where we edit that rough draft, and then they write a final draft. And also in the rough draft stage, they have to add dress ups. So like ly adverbs, they have to put in because clauses, who, which clauses, get rid of weak verbs in favor of stronger verbs, and also obviously, capitalization, punctuation, spelling, all of those things. And they have a banned words list. So if they use the word said, they have to take said out and say something else that is more descriptive. And so I purchased an IEW writing curriculum before that was medieval history, and it was like pulling teeth for me, for my kid. And so we kind of ditched that. And so I was a little bit hesitant to order this curriculum since it was kind of the same thing, but really wasn't the curriculum. It was just us not getting it out and doing it. But since we switched over to this one with Andrew teaching, my kids love it. He's very funny. And even though it's nonfiction, he picks topics that are very interesting, like the blue-ringed octopus that is venomous. And so they have a story about that. I don't even know where he finds these stories. They are so outlandish and interesting and funny. And so it really engages my boys. So I highly recommend this curriculum. And if your student is more into writing fiction, that's totally fine. I get that. But if they don't have the foundation of knowing how to write properly and write strong and correctly, they will struggle with even writing fiction down the road. So having this solid foundation so they can write research papers, and let's face it, in college, they're probably going to have more research type papers and projects to turn in as opposed to creative writing, unless that happens to be their major. Having this strong foundation of how to write correctly is great. And I also like the fact that they can do most of this independently. They just come to me if they need help with maybe a definition or spelling a word, editing their paper, things like that. But pretty much it's open and go. go and they can do it themselves. My son also does typing on typing.com. It is a free online typing program, so he does that once a week. And he also does Spanish lessons over Zoom. So it is a live class with an instructor on the Zoom call, and my two older sons do it together. So they are learning Spanish, and we use Homeschool Spanish Academy. So I will put the link in the description box below if you're interested in that. So far, it's been really great, and they are learning Spanish slowly but surely. So now I'm moving into the subjects that we do together as a family. So the first one is a devotion. This is from Apologia, who is God. They have 4 different books in this series. They have journals that you can buy for your students as well. But for us, I wanted it to be more of a reading and then discussion based topic. So I read this at the breakfast table, and we have some really great conversations, and we start out our day on that note. For science, we were part of a co-op, and some of the rotations were STEM-based learning, which is really great, hands-on. And then at home, we have been using the Good and the Beautiful science units, which I absolutely love. So we were using this Motion and Simple Machines. So this goes all the way from grade 3 to 8. And this one is 12 lessons. So if you wanted to do science twice a week, this would last you 6 weeks. If you do it once a week, it'll last you 12 weeks. So it's just really up to you. It's very flexible, and you can order as many units as you want to cover your whole school year. And then it gives you the supplies that you are going to need up front. And most of these things I can find in my own kitchen. There's a vocab section, and they tell you to cut those out and put them on a science board. And then the lesson is, it just tells you how to prepare the supplies you will need. You read a little bit of stuff to the student. You go over the vocab words. Then sometimes they pull in other things, like it's talking about a painting. And then you do a little experiment. So for this one, it's about pushing and pulling force activity. So you do the activity and then you discuss the results. Then they have some beautiful science videos on their website. So it'll tell you, okay, watch this video now. And then the next thing, it moves into Sir Isaac Newton. And then they have a little lesson to do in their book. So I did buy the lower level book for my younger son. And then for my 7th grader, I did buy the grade 7 to 8 student journal. It's similar to the lower grade book, but it does have an extension activity so that he does have a little bit more reading and questions than my younger son. So for this one, he was supposed to write about Sir Isaac Newton, inspiring things about Sir Isaac Newton, some quotes of his, and then the extension. So then he has to read about frictional force and tension force, applied force, spring force, and then it shows pictures, and he has to put which kind of force it is. Okay, so it's just a little bit extra than the lower grades. And then it has more space for notes and things like that. Highly recommend this. And I just love the concept of doing science together as a family, and then they can break out and do the assignments based on their age level. Because with math and language arts, it's very much, okay, this is your grade, this is your level. You can't really come together as a family. So for history and science, I still like to do that, even though like he's going to be in 8th grade next year. And then in high school, he's probably going to be off at the community college doing like separate science classes. So I just want to hold on to these years that we can do some joint subjects together. And I also bought the extra books for that because my boys are very much into sports. And then this is the story of invention. So they always have a couple of supplemental books that you can purchase with your curriculum as well, or you don't have to. It's totally up to you. We have also been doing the health and physical body unit. Like for this one, talking about the respiratory system, you do a little mock lung experiment with bendy straws, tape, scissors, rubber bands, balloons, clay, and you talk about it. You watch a video on the respiratory system. You have vocab words. You do the little lung simulator activity. You have a little thing that you read to the kids, and then they do their lesson extension. So this is like a student journal. That's grades 3 to 6, and of course you can get the older one. But that is just hands-on activities of what they're learning as a family. And then this unit comes with extras, like you have to do bones and joints matching card, parts of a cell. So this one has a vocab word, a definition, and then a picture. So they go over that so they can learn that. And then once you go over this, then you just say like mitochondria, and then they have to point to the mitochondria on the teacher sheet. So you're working on a little bit of memorization. This is the breathe in, breathe out card, and the pictures on Good and Beautiful are just gorgeous. Like, it's just, they do such a good job with that. So I really like Good and the Beautiful just because it makes science approachable. It makes it accessible for homeschool moms. I am not a scientist per se. I'm a business major. So doing stuff like this, I love doing it and I think it's very interesting. I just don't like it to get too complicated. So you're covering concepts, you're doing things as a family, you're doing some hands-on activities. They can do their little notebook on their own, that's their level, and you don't get bored because these are only about 12 lessons and then you can move on to something else. So I really, really like these, and I believe we will stick with Good and the Beautiful for science moving forward. History is another subject that we do together, and I really like Beautiful Feet books. If you haven't heard of it, I have a description down below, but instead of using history textbooks, it uses living books. So it's more of a Charlotte Mason approach to history. And so this year we were doing American history. You have kind of like an encyclopedia type book that you can use for a lot of different things. And then there are smaller storybooks. And I bought a few, and I found a lot of these actually at the library too. Remember the Ladies, a story about Abigail Adams, 7 Miles to Freedom, George versus George, the American Revolution is seen from both sides, The World of William Penn. And this is very interesting. I didn't know very much about William Penn before we read this, and it's just really well done. And basically living books allow the children to picture other people's lives and experience what they experienced by reading their story, and it sticks with them and it resonates with them more than reading a textbook with a lot of dates, and you're pretty emotionally removed from it and you don't remember it as well. So that's why I really like these living books for history. And also by doing reading aloud, and even when your children are older, reading aloud is still very powerful. It really helps their brains develop. It helps their language skills develop. And also it just brings the family together. And in this world where we're torn in a million different directions, it's really nice to be able to come back and have something that we do as a family from the preschooler all the way up to the 7th grader. If you have some suggestions of some videos and content that you want to see, please put it in the description box below, and also tell me what you're using for your 7th grader. If you found this video helpful, please consider hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.